I think that everyone can agree here that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, much like Star Wars, is in a downward spiral. It is becoming a bigger disaster with each and every movie release, and with the Marvels up and coming, this really is going to serve as the pinnacle of box office failures among Disney. In fact, the box office projections for the Marvels are already looking to be worse than that of The Flash. This is exactly why I said expect the Marvels to arrive on Disney Plus in less than 2 months after its release on November 10th. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, everything about Blade 2025, we know that there's a lot of controversy surrounding this film, and we have a lot to talk about today about this movie. Now, we know that there were extensive rewrites and extensive revisions that have been taking place ever since they canned the idea of making this an all-female-led movie, which, by the way, is absolutely ludicrous. It really goes to show you what Disney's all about. But there's a lot worse news that's coming into Blade 2025 behind closed doors, and exactly what is actually planned by Bob Iger, the board of directors, and the writers involved for Blade 2025. Let's discuss. Now, for those of you that may remember the movies led by Wesley Snipes, which, by the way, are amazing, go ahead and check them out. I think that really is, one of the great examples of the early days of where Marvel was really beginning to kind of enter into live action. But what's great about this is the fact that they are really trying to do whatever they can to salvage of what has been going on with Blade 2025, and it just is further proof that Disney has no idea what they're doing with the MCU. So let's get into the details about all of this. Now, with Marvel's Blade 2025 movie receiving endless criticism after the ongoing drama about their original plans to make it female-led, one major and concerning development for this film, given that Blade is now releasing in 25 due to the ongoing rewrites. As it turns out, though Marvel and the writers have diverted from making it all female-led entirely, the controversy doesn't stop there, as remnants of the original script will still remain in the finished product that is now only getting a revision as opposed to an entire different story and script. Bob Iger and the board forced this upon Marvel, Kevin Feige, and more, such as the writers, to only dial down and to take a step back on the female-led aspect. However, Blade will be treated as a secondary character still, and will of course be treated as such in the upcoming storyline that is now being revamped by the writers. Almost similar to what happened with Luke in The Last Jedi or Indiana Jones in Indy 5 is essentially and reportedly what Disney is going for with Blade 25 by making Ali, the actor who portrays Blade, as more or less of a side character to give actress Mia Goth the spotlight in this film. Now, in addition to all of this, not only will many woke agendas for the film remain, however, Disney and Marvel Studios are now pouring more money into the budget of this film, which is only setting things up for failure if the film does not deliver with its audience, which will easily lead to it becoming a box office flop. To top things all off as well, they fired their entire marketing team for Blade 2025 and are in the process of replacing them with new ones that will be in control of all the posters, all the merchandise, of the graphic art, stuff like that. Another significant update involving Blade 25 is that they are going to be altering the source material from the comics for their debut with this character. Both Iger and the board are also pushing their DEI agenda to be heavily introduced in the Blade movie for both Act 1 and Act 2 that are the biggest portions of the film that are receiving rewrites by the writers. Now guys, let me just say one thing about this before I get to the big conclusion about all of this, is that the fact that you have a movie like Blade, which by the way is so heavily respected by Marvel fans, especially those that love the first movie by Wesley Snipes, a lot of fans love that one out there, it's exactly why, when this movie was announced, there was so much hype going into it, and I think that's exactly why you're getting a lot of pushback and backlash right now from the fans to Disney, is that they are beginning to learn what Disney is doing with their DEI agenda, with all of this nonsense spewing into multiple movies and brands. Now, like I said earlier, they are dialing back on the female-led variant of Blade but they're not getting rid of it entirely. In fact, like I said before, they are still keeping that intact by making Blade a secondary-driven character, where he's not necessarily the main focus per se. He will be the Luke of Star Wars The Last Jedi, or the Indiana Jones of Indiana Jones 5. That's kind of like what they're going for right now behind closed doors, and it's what Iger and the board are pushing for to make Goth really the main focus in this film. So what's interesting about that, though, is the fact that you have actors like Ali involved. He has had some problems before in the past, by the way, in case you guys have not been following this for months. He has had some problems with the story behind the scenes, and this makes all the more sense as to why he had some issues. Because a lot of it had to do with Disney pushing all of that nonsense of really just pushing that female narrative. But let's get into this further. This is where things begin to really unravel, is that both Iger and the board are also pushing all of this to actually be used in the marketing. This version of Blade is also planned to be less dark than the original starring Wesley Snipes, as Disney is going for a different and lighter approach with this Blade movie. Now, Disney is also preparing to make an official statement about Blade during their first earnings call for 2024 that will shed more light on plans for the film. Disney is also already in the process of cutting down the running time for this new version of Blade after the extensive rewrites that are already taking place since the WGA strike came to a halt, with many portions of the original script saved for the third act of the film that will partially focus on an all-female-led aspect. This only is a recipe for disaster when it comes to a beloved series of films and comics from Marvel fans. I think the bigger drama out of all of this is the fact that behind the scenes they fired the entire marketing team for Blade 2025 to kind of cover their tracks of this being an all-female-led series, or movie I should say, that's going to eventually become a multi-film format. I think what's really delicate here is that you're dealing with a very well-respected character that comes from a character that is so embedded in comics, and even the movies did very well. I think that when you look especially at the first film, that's the film that many fans out there really respect, and they are just hoping that it's going to actually have some kind of relevance or, accuracy to that film. And as it turns out, Disney's not going for that. They are planning to make this more lighter, to make it less dark, altering the source material, kind of diverting from that a little bit, and it's all a part of Bob Iger and the board's agenda. And it's not going to stop here. They're going to continue to do this with other Marvel movies and shows, regardless of how they are going to plan on bringing back Iron Man and Black Widow, to get Robert Downey Jr. back in the spotlight, and Scarlett Johansson as well, which I think just spells desperation on their part. I think it really is quite clownish of them to really just make it seem all the more visible of how desperate they really are. But anyway, I would really love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.